Hey, for Friday, July 31st, 2020. That's Friday, July 31st, 2020. My name is Michael James Odd, and I am the host of the Pro and Con Show. Welcome to the show, as always. Welcome to the show. So the intent of the show is to encourage us all to be better citizens, to ferret out the truth, the who, the what, the where, and the when. And today's show is called Ostriches. And the reason why I'm doing a show and I named it Ostriches, say that, that's hard for me to say. You say it fast. Ostriches. So it even sounds like I'm not saying it right. But anyway, the reason why I'm calling the show Ostriches, is because there was this famous legend, I guess, that ostriches supposedly bury their heads in the sand. And in fact, if you look on the internet, you can find many pictures of ostriches that it appears like they have their head buried in the sand. And what caused me to think about them is a fellow wrote an article here, and it's called Voters Who Are Still Backing Trump. And it's an opinion piece written by Rich Tao. And I just show it to you here. And what he does here is he talks about he has been consistently interviewing people in kind of not far from where I live. So I live in Hudson, Wisconsin, which is like the far western border of Wisconsin. But in this area, especially in the more rural parts of this area, this upper Midwest, there are people who have not really changed very much in their views at all about Mr. Trump over the last 3 years. So basically, they think he is. And what this particular fellow did is he found voters back in the 2016 election. And these voters said, yep, I used to vote for Obama, and now I'm voting for Trump. And now he's this one particular researcher has been tracking a few dozen of these people and trying to see if they're going to switch back to now Mr. Biden. And it's really interesting. That they're really these people, and he interviews these folks on a regular basis. They really are in the same position that they were, because they're really decided that they're not going to pay attention. They're going to figuratively bury their heads in the sand. I'll get back to what ostriches are really doing with their head in the sand here in a moment, but and so they don't, do you know anything about Mr. Biden? Nope. Have you, it's really interesting that they look at it like, well, Mr. Trump is a businessman, and even though, the economy has kind of gone off the cliff here, and a lot of people feel like it's Mr. Trump's fault because of the way he's handled the pandemic and all that. A lot of these folks say, well, it wasn't his fault that the pandemic came. And as far as his abilities to do his job, these people, they're in these places where they're not really impacted by Mr. Trump very much at all. And so their opinions haven't really changed. They have this opinion, he's touted himself as being this fabulous businessman, and they still generally believe that he is. And there's things that they don't like one woman from over here in Minnesota says Trump makes her feel confident, but sometimes a little cringeworthy, because she believes but has basically not been following or looking at anything in the news. She just believes the facade and hasn't, and again, has metaphorically stuck her head in the sand for the last 3 years. And really the real question is, I guess, are you really going to be a citizen like that? You're just not going to pay attention? And you feel comfortable with that? Like an ostrich with their head in the sand? No, again. And so, just by the way, ostriches don't actually stick their head in the sand. They make nests, and the nests are below ground, and so they actually use their beaks and stuff, and they dig these holes, and then they lay their eggs in there, and then they tend the eggs as time goes on. I think turning them and stuff like that. And so the reason why you can easily find ostriches with their head apparently in the ground is because they are frequently tending their eggs. I guess they turn them and stuff like that. And so you'll see the parent ostrich with the head in the hole, and it looks just like an ostrich with its head in the sand, but it's not. They're actually tending their nests. They're looking after their young. But it's interesting to me that there's a portion of the population, and this fellow says, in some of these rural areas, these people have been basically untouched by the pandemic. They've been untouched by tax cuts. They've been untouched by the impeachment, because for the most part, it hasn't actually reached them in their businesses, their farms, or whatever, and they've just chosen not to pay attention. And I don't know what to say about that, other than that's, in my view, a very bad way to be. And I would hope that you would pull your heads out of the metaphorical sand and start paying attention, because wow, Mr. Trump does have a lot of shortcomings, and I've gone over them repeatedly, and I'll go over them again and again over the next 90 some days until the election. And they're real. This is not, my show is not about projecting some kind of falsehoods or whatever. These things are abject facts. Just like the earth is round, not flat. And yeah, there's a handful of people, some tiny percentage of the world population that believes that the world is flat. But the vast majority of us believe and know, in fact, that the earth is round, because there is, substantive evidence to that in the public domain. And just like some of the shortcomings of Mr. Trump, there's vast evidence of his shortcomings in the public domain, and therefore it is no longer opinion. It is no longer, it's simply an observation. You observe that the earth is round. You observe that it's not flat. It's round. You can see it. You can observe it. There's multiple ways of verifying it. And the same thing is true of many of Mr. Trump's shortcomings. And the biggest one, the one that's shown us, I think, the biggest limitations of Mr. Trump is the pandemic here. That's been really causing a lot of issues here for our nation and the world, but really for our nation. We have what is it? We have around 340 million. So this is a tiny portion of the 8 billion people on the planet. But we have fully like 25% of the pandemic cases and deaths are in this country. So 340, that's 0.3 billion people out of 7.9 to 8 billion. So whatever that percentage is, 5% of the population of the world. And we have 25% of the cases and deaths. We're mishandling it, and it's pretty clear Mr. Trump has been the major cause in that. If, again, you open your eyes and observe that the world is round and observe that these are Mr. Trump's shortcomings, you come to realize that, yeah, this is a big problem. The pandemic has shown that he does not have the wherewithal, does not have the leadership skills, does not have the mental acuity to drive this nation forward in a way that's going to help us fix all of the onslaught of issues that we have because of this pandemic. And there's whatever millions of people in this country that haven't a clue because they've chosen not to pay attention. Wow. Anyway, for the Pro and Con Show, my name is Michael James Ott. And until the next show, bye for now.